All right. I'm actually live now. Awesome. Apologies to anyone who came at 9 Central expecting me to be on. I was here and had my stream software going and was playing and talking and looking at the live preview on the screen and everything. And then realized there was a go live button that's added on YouTube when you do a scheduled stream that I hadn't clicked. So I was just watching a preview of my live stream. So if you came and you're able to pop in again here for Tuesday's Piano Technique Secrets, episode 1. This is the first day of my fall live streams. Really want to make this happen, so I'm glad I could come back and do it even though an hour later than originally planned. Glad I'm able to do this. So welcome. I'm Jonathan Chapman Cook of JCC Piano Studio. I'm a classically trained pianist and composer, and yeah, I've kind of fallen in love with live streaming and going online and being able to talk about what I do, play all kinds of things that I'm doing on the channel here. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm trying out a Sunday through Friday 9 Central live stream. That schedule is going to be varying a little bit here and there, so I'll have a schedule posted on my YouTube channel and website with any variations in that, so be sure to check in before you tune in right at 9. Yeah, with that, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat or just say, hey, I'm here. It'd be good to see you. I've got the chat window open here, so if you have any questions as we go. But with that, let's jump into piano technique. So what does technique mean, really? Is it just being able to play fast scales and powerful chords and cadences and flying arpeggios? Or is there a deeper meaning to technique? And of course the answer is yes, there's a deeper meaning to technique. Technique is going to be how we use and even understand the body in relation to the piano for the purpose of everything we do. It is intricately tied with the action of playing the piano. And as such, technique is being utilized with the most sensitive played 1 or 2 notes as much as it is with playing really fast scales and things that people often associate with the virtuoso technique or advanced piano technique. And so I thought I would start this out today by talking about the body as a whole. So we don't just play the piano with our hands, whether we know it or not. If we think we're playing the piano with just our 5 fingers, we have a kind of limited perspective. Now, if you're a beginner and that's all you can focus on, that's okay, absolutely okay, so long as you're being mindful of a couple things, such as your posture, the height of your bench in relation to the piano keyboard, and your distance from the keys. If you have those things in place and you're focused on having a good hand position while you play, that's excellent. However, I do recommend incorporating some body awareness into your warm-ups and into the way that you play, so that gradually over time you can develop this full body sense of playing the piano. Each part of the body sort of has its job at the piano, to be positioned and either engaged or relaxed, or an oscillation between both. So nothing is just statically held. Everything is either relaxing, being used, engaged in a way that's mindful and has a purpose, supportive purpose or otherwise engaged purpose, and then things that aren't being used that can relax, we relax them so that they save energy, and when the time comes to use them, we have the full power of those parts of our body to use. So I am a practitioner of yoga. I've been practicing yoga for, gosh, a long time now, 17 years, I believe. And the practices, the mindfulness practices, and the body awareness exercises in regards to tuning into the body and finding out what's going on in different parts of the body. I was able to apply those principles to my own practice in a way that I healed myself from 2 years of crippling, terrible, painful tendinitis that was diagnosed when I turned 18 as over practice. Now, it wasn't over practice, it was improper practice. I was holding too many muscles statically, so they became chronically, what's the word? Chronically, what's the word when you flex a muscle? Contracted, chronically contracted muscles, particularly in the elbow and wrist, forearm area, which then caused the tendons in my hands to be constantly under strain and stress and gradually become inflamed. And this causes pain in the hands, and it's horrible. And if you can do anything to avert it as a pianist, I highly recommend it. So here's a few things I do to tune into my body when I'm first sitting down. Actually, before I sit down at the piano. So I'm going to move this thing, make a little space here, and feel free to do this with me if you have a little space. I'll switch the camera here. So I'm just going to clear stuff out of the way and find a spot where you're not going to hit anything. If you swing your arms around, we want that full range of motion. So I'm going to find a stable upright posture with very slightly bent knees, not locked knees, not super bent, just slightly bent, comfortably bent. And I'm going to roll my shoulders up and back, breathing in and loosen those up a little bit. And I'm going to be conscious of where the weight is falling into my feet. Now, if that's a new thing to you, one thing you can do is in this upright standing posture is lean forward onto your toes and then slowly lean back, don't fall down, and lean forward. And take some nice deep belly breaths while you're doing this, getting the oxygen flowing. Now, this same awareness of where your weight is falling is going to transfer into your sits bones when you're sitting on the piano bench, so that you have a relaxed, upright posture supported by the natural structure of the spine. It saves so much energy if you just become aware of this and utilize the natural structure of the body to support you at the instrument rather than propping yourself up or leaning over. There's so much burn of energy that happens. And that decreases focus, all that energy you could have available for creativity or practicing longer, feeling good after your practice. So I'm going to invite you to explore this realm of mindfulness of your body. It really frees up. It's way more than just preventing injury. It frees up so much to be done and experienced at the instrument. So now with breathing, we're just going to loosen up the torso. I like to pivot my feet when I'm doing this. I'll show you what that looks like here. So you can see my feet are sort of pivoting. It's very relaxed. I'm feeling the spine gently twist, not letting anything go into extreme realms of the range of motion, just loosening up. Yeah, it feels good. So I can shake it out. And now I'm going to do forward swings of the arm, circles of the arm. Do about 10 of those. And then the left arm forward. 5, 6. Okay. So after every one of these, check in with how that part of your body feels. Do you feel some crunch in that elbow? And if you have a tendency to then react to a feeling of tension by grabbing it and pulling yourself into a stretch. I'm speaking more to myself, I think, than anyone else in this, because for the longest time when I discovered all these points of tension and holding, I became sort of obsessed with trying to release them. And say if this felt tight, I would like try to put my arm back here and stretch this muscle. And I was being too aggressive with it, and actually ended up causing more tension, more problems, because I wasn't being gentle on myself and just paying attention. Just giving attention to the part of your body, and then sending it a signal that says, it's okay, like, I see where you're at. We're going to work on this. I'm just going to be aware of you. I'm just going to listen to you right now. So I'm talking, yes, about my shoulder socket as if it's a kindergartner or something. So it's going to be saying, hey, now that you're aware of me, I have needs, I have pain, I have problems, I'm hungry, or whatever it is. And just give it a little gentle reassurance that you're there. I might sound totally crazy right now, but trust me, this really works. Your body is constantly trying to get your attention. And if you just start paying attention and letting it know that you're paying attention, that's going to be a lot more effective in integrating that into your body than just saying, like, okay, we're going to fix this problem. We're going to fix it. For me, this metaphor of thinking of the signals I get from my body as kindergartners, if you ever had the chance to work with a kindergartner, they really thrive on just being given attention and just allowing them to feel seen. And then once that's done, then they can have their needs fulfilled, and they'll be much happier. So there's a lot more we could talk about with that. So then we'll do some backwards rolls, circles of the arm, and you can do more of these. And so that's a couple basic things just to get the upper body warmed up and get in a comfortable upright posture before we sit down at the piano. So now sitting at the piano, I'll just say this quickly. You want to make sure that your bench is at a height where if you put your hands on the keys, that your elbow is roughly level with the keys. We're sitting upright at a distance from the piano where if we're in that comfortable upright posture, not leaning forward or leaning back, if we put our arms out straight without, again, hunching or doing this, the fists are going to fall in a vertical line from the back of the keys. On a grand piano, there's actually a board there called the fall board. So that's your distance, and this allows you to have a full range across the keyboard. And it's also good to generally sit in a consistent centered position. So where I like to sit is with my navel, my belly button lined up with the D at the center of the piano. The actual very center of the piano is the the space or the crack between E and F here. But I like to do this D here for most music. That makes me feel pretty centered. With most things, we can then lean back and forth from this distance and have access to the full keyboard. But if you're playing a piece that's just tons and tons of stuff up here, it's okay to scooch over for that section or for that piece. But generally, we want to recenter in this, wherever it is that you decide to center at, so that every time you sit down to play, your arm, your hand, and where the center of your body are in the same relation relative to the last time you practiced. I've seen students play the piano and in a recital say, I don't know what happened, it all went haywire, and I might say, did you notice that you were sitting 1 foot left of where you normally sit at the piano? And of course, usually not, because there's nerves and everything. So I'm always sure with my students to do a lot of recital prep coaching so they have those things to focus on instead of just thinking about how nervous they are. But performance coaching will be a topic in other live streams. In the meantime, let's get into some playing here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some basic technique that's very, very useful to develop. And then I'm going to actually improvise a piece using this technique. So technique isn't just about our scales, but it's about making music with it. I always want to have that sense when practicing technique that it's going to support music making. Never want to lose sight of that. So basic type of scale that if you ever taken any piano lessons you've probably learned is a 5-finger scale. It's just one note lined up after the next within one hand position, one note per finger. This is a C major 5-finger scale. You can see I'm lifting each note at the exact moment I play the next, so there's evenness. I can play it soft. I can play it loud. So something that's just so important to develop and is often overlooked when students begin practicing more, quote, advanced scales such as a full octave scale or say a 2-octave scale. I guess that was a 3-octave scale. Is that fingers 4 and 5 don't get exercised or used equally in those scales. There's a much greater focus on fingers 1, 2, 3, and then a little bit more of 4, and then no 4-5 connection except for the very top of the scale in the right hand and the very bottom of the scale in the left hand. And so I still do 5-finger exercises in my practice and warm-ups because that's naturally the weakest link in the hand, and so we don't want to just leave it way behind in our technique practice. So I believe personally that practicing 5-finger scales, even graduating into a more advanced regimen or exercises that are in the 5-finger position in various scales, is tremendously beneficial and useful rather than just leaving it behind. So I'm going to run through the 12 major 5-finger scales with a simple pattern. For kids, beginners, I call this steps, skips, and a chord. And it's ascending seconds and descending, and then thirds, and then a chord. Call those steps and skips in the beginning, you can see. So it's just like climbing up the steps of a stair, and then you skip up and down the stair. Then you play all the notes of the skips together. So on to D flat major. And you can hear that I'm attempting to do something musical in my phrasing of these. This could be something that you plan, that you map out, or that you improvise, meaning that you create how loud and soft or variations between those that you're incorporating into this as you play it. Some people are very comfortable improvising, other people might want more of a map. So as a general map, I might recommend doing a little bit of a crescendo up to the top and back down for the steps and the skips. That'd be one idea. Let's try another one. I like that one more. Crescendo through the steps and then diminuendo. Crescendo meaning getting louder, diminuendo being getting softer across the whole steps and skips. And then maybe a strong triumphant chord. And I'm back to C. So other ways that these can be practiced is in contrary motion, meaning we'll start on the bottom of the left hand and go in opposite motion. And so on. And I also like inventing exercises within this. We might just create a series of numbers, picking random numbers between 1 and 5. And you can't say do a repeated number and you have to start and end on finger 1. I'll come up with one right now. How about 1, 4, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 2. This is like Simon Says. 5, 3, 2, 1. That's a nice little shape. So for piano teachers out there, this is something you could add to the mix. This is a fun way to teach kids how to compose who otherwise don't have any idea how to start composing. You just come up with a string of numbers with a couple rules and they can create their own melody. I've had students just create wonderfully creative things using this method, and they're just picking numbers, and you get these great melodies. You really can't lose with this one. Now, what I'm going to do now is just demonstrate how much strong 5-finger scales can play into piano technique at a more advanced level. Now, I'm going to do this by improvising. And I'm going to improvise something, make up a piece on the spot here, using only 5-finger positions on the piano. And it's going to move around the piano a lot and use pedal. We'll see how it goes. I actually didn't practice this before this live stream. I just came up with the idea and thought that would be a really interesting thing to do to apply this technique of 5-finger scales. Now, of course, this plays into repertoire and music across the board. The importance of strong, steady 5-finger hand positions and evenness within the hand and between the fingers is so critical to being able to choose exactly how you want to play the music, because there's just so much of it. If you have unequal 5-finger scales, then you're playing at the most advanced levels will be sloppy. So there's never a bad time to practice these. In fact, a good friend of mine who recently started his doctorate at a very renowned music school, I brought up 5-finger scales and he said, "Dude, I love 5-finger scales. I don't know why, students think that they get past those. It's something that really you never get past. It becomes part of the core of your playing." So I don't know what I'm going to do. This is going to be something using 5-finger scales, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so there we have it. You can see how, obviously, explicitly, I was creating something that only used 5-finger scales, but could you imagine some of the piano music that you've heard that has all these amazing things happening in it that seem really, really advanced? So much of that springs forth from having well-developed, even 5-finger scales. So hopefully this has inspired some of you to practice your scales a bit more, and in doing so, bringing a new layer into your scale practice that maybe you didn't know was there, or you know is there, but you've been neglecting. It's very easy to bring this kind of brute or taskmaster master mentality into our scale practice. So let's commit together this fall to bringing mindfulness and musicianship into our scale practice. I'll be doing the same thing, and in future Tuesday morning live streams, I'll be sharing my technical regimen with you and talking about what I am working on improving within that, what I'm adding to it, what I'm trying to build up to. So that's a place for me to get some practice on the edge that I'm going to try to push this fall. So stay tuned, come back next Tuesday. I believe we will be starting at 9 a.m. next Tuesday, not at 10 a.m., and I'm talking Central Time here. I know a lot of people who watch me are in Eastern Time and some other time zones. So hope to see you next Tuesday, and that schedule will be verified on my YouTube page, so check in there. I'll also have it up on my website. So thanks guys for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time. I'll be doing another live stream tomorrow, so check in for